And I guess you could say that's why I'm running to be the governor of Arizona. But I want to take you back. Well, just ignore the people in the background. Just pretend there's a curtain here. So no, it's wonderful. So I got my start a million years ago in my career. By the way, Lisa, I listened to James Taylor and Cat Stevens when I was growing up too, because that's when they were making music. So a million years ago, when I got my start in my career, I was a pastor, and I was a pastor of a country church. That was my first big professional job, and it was a country church in rural northern Illinois. And this was way back in the 1880s, and when I went to seminary to become a pastor, I had never heard a woman preach. There just weren't. That just didn't happen. So I got sent, of course, this city kid. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I got sent to this country church out in the middle of north central Illinois, to this little country church with all these German farmers. And they had never had a woman, not only had they never had a woman pastor before, but they had never heard, they didn't even allow women on their church board, right? So this was ancient history. Does anybody remember those days? There are 3 of us in the room. No, Illinois is not so like that, although some parts. So anyway, so I can remember going out. I belonged to a kind of a church where people in the church got to vote on who their pastor was. So I had to drive out into the country and go to this little church and meet with this group of all men, farmers, who actually listened to this and made country music, right? So in their overalls, I'm loving the overalls tonight because, they were with their seed corn caps, for real, And when they took them off, their heads were white from here up. So anyway, so I go and I meet with this group of all these men, and they're asking me all these questions, and they're as surprised as I am that they like me. And I mean, they're shocked. And we're sitting there around this table in this church hall, and we're having this long conversation, and they're asking me all these questions, and they like me. And to my surprise, I like them. And by the end of this 2-hour conversation, we're all standing up and we're shaking hands, and they're talking about when I'm going to come and meet everybody else in the congregation. I know this is totally weird to you. You feel like you're hearing a story from a different land. But so we're all shaking hands, and they're pat me on the back, and it's awesome. And there's one farmer that's sitting at the end of the table, far end of the table, and he hasn't said anything all night. And when we stand up to say goodbye, and we're getting ready to leave, Delphin Schlesinger, he speaks into this noise, and he says, "I just have one thing to say. If this church calls a lady pastor, me and my whole family are leaving." Now, I'm so glad I didn't know that 1/3 of the church was named Schlesinger. I might have been really nervous. Instead, what I said, I turned to him and I said, "Delphin, I'm so glad you just said that, because now we can talk about this." And we all sat back down at the table and we had a big conversation. I was in that church for 3 years, and on my last Sunday there, Delphin's son Randy came to church, and he said, my dad and my mom aren't coming this morning. And they're not coming because my dad doesn't want to have everybody in the church see him cry because you're leaving. Here's the thing. I really believe this. Love changes people. Love changes people. And that's why I'm running for governor. Now, I know you've never heard a speech from a politician like that in your whole life. I'm running for a lot of other reasons. I'm loving because I think we have to fix our schools, and because we have to figure out how to deal with this water crisis in the desert, and we have to end poverty, and we have to close private prisons, and we have to invest in small, wonderful, locally owned businesses like this instead of big corporations. I'm running for all those reasons, but really at the heart of it is this. I think we need more love. I think we need more love. You know? I'm running because I love my kids and I love my granddaughter, and I want to leave a world to them that I can be proud of. I'm running because I love my wife. And I don't want to live in fear of a government that thinks that this isn't right. I'm running because I love my neighbors, some of whom are brown and some of whom are black, and who live with all kinds of things on top of them that make life more difficult for them than for me. I'm running because I love my mom, who's getting old and is worried about her money running out in the richest country in the world. I'm running because I love the women and respect and honor the women that I've been working with at the YWCA for the last 5 years, many of whom are coming out of domestic violence, coming out of addiction, coming out of prison, coming out of generational poverty, who work harder than anybody I've ever met to make life better for themselves and their family, and who have the state of Arizona sitting on top of their heads, making life more difficult for them. I'm running because I grieve with the parents in Broward County, Florida tonight. And because we live in a state that is dangerous for kids and for families. I'm running for love. And I see love all over the place these days. I see love in the marches in the streets. I see love here tonight. And I think we need more of this in this state and in this country and in this world. So my daughter Emma, who many of you met because she was there at the table when you came in, she grew up, she was a little kid when I was a pastor in that congregation. And she was a kindergartner, and when she was old enough to go to kindergarten, because we lived 10 miles from the nearest school, she would have to get on the bus, and there was only one bus for all the country kids. So, all the country kids, see, it's a theme. All the country kids. So she was on a bus as a little kindergartner with the 8th graders. And she came home one day after school, got off the bus, and she was so mad. She was like, "Mom, you will not believe what happened on the bus today." I'm like, "What happened on the bus today?" And she said, "One of the 8th graders," and she named her because she knew her, because that 8th grader was in my confirmation class. One of the 8th graders, she said, she was picking on one of the 3rd graders on the bus, and it just made me so mad. The little 3rd grader was crying. And I'm like, "All right, don't worry about it. I know Jessie. I'll talk to her. I'll talk to her parents." And Emma said, "Oh, no, you don't have to do that." And I said, "Why not?" And she said, "Because I already talked to her." I said, "Really?" This is a little kindergartner and this 8th grader. And I said, "What did you say to her?" And Emma said, "I told her to pick on somebody her own size." And for me, that's what this election is about. It's about saying to the folks in charge, pick on somebody your own size, because we're going to stick together and we're going to make this state a place that works for everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you.